Alright, so, let me make everything perfectly clear to you, Monokuma. No strings attached. Got it? Got it. No tricking me into another killing game. Got it. No hope, no despair, nothing but peaceful discussions and talking with the viewers. If I see you do any harm to Shuichi, Himiko, or Maki, if you lay your paw on them, the deal is off, and you will be fired. And I'm gonna kill you. Got it. Just gonna sign this and everything is set. You'll get your money at the end of each video. Shall we begin? Alright. Hello people, and welcome to a new series I'd like to call Let's Talk Danganronpa. We're gonna be trying something new here today. We're gonna be discussing everything Danganronpa related. Either way we'll answer questions coming from you, or ones that we ourselves will come up with. Give my thoughts about the characters, analyze them, debate whether something is good or not, etc. And loot stuff. No, we are not gonna talk about loots. Who said that we're gonna talk about them? We're not gonna show loots here, Monokuma, but the views will go through the roof. And it will have us shut the cities down. Well, that's the point. Alright, let's get started. First topic. If I am to describe how I felt after ending the killing game, it would be with two words. At peace. Usually when I end an adventure, especially at Danganronpa 1, I always felt happy for how it all ended. But at the same time, it always felt weird for me that it has ended after such a long time. Keep in mind that, in comparison to other people who managed to beat Danganronpas in a very short period of time, for me it took months and months to finish one. Over half a year for each main entry. I took my time, and with that, it made me more connected to the role that I was in and the people I was with. So when it all ends, it feels odd. It's really like when you watch a really good anime. You are hooked, you enjoy the story and the characters, and when you finish that story, you ask yourself, now what do I do? You feel this emptiness until you move on to the next adventure that awaits you. But with Danganronpa V3, it is a bit different. I was happy, and I don't have this weird feeling in me. I guess that also stems from the fact that this was the last Danganronpa entry in the series for now, and I have finished such a long journey, starting with Danganronpa 1 and now ending it with V3. Now before you say anything, I would like to add that, no, I'm not saying this because I really wanted V3 to end. That I didn't like it, so it is because of that I didn't have this empty feeling in me. Like, on the contrary, I actually have Danganronpa V3 as my favorite Danganronpa game in the series. I enjoyed it a lot more and I had a lot more interesting experiences with it than other Danganronpa entries. That's for sure. Not to mention that, in this whole thing, combined with the ending of V3, I felt a much stronger connection to the students, the survivors. And I am happy that, in the end, Shuichi, Himiko, and Maki are alive. Though, not 100% happy. If only Kiba would have survived, it would have been even more amazing. Okay, so to conclude, not only are you feeling happy, but instead of the usual feeling of emptiness, you feel complete. Exactly. I think that's the best word for this situation. Because I've been doing the Danganronpa series for such a long time, and still loving it, so given that it has ended now, makes it feel complete to me. It has ended on a good note, and now I only want to stay with Shuichi, Himiko, and Maki, because I love them so much. And whenever a new Danganronpa adventure will come up in the distant future, I will gladly pick up where I left off. Also, I get to finally surf the internet for fan art and such of the entire Danganronpa series without worrying about spoilers. Now you have even more hell to go through. What do you mean? This was the last entry in the series. Oh, I'm not talking about that kind of hell they've gotten so used to. I'm referring to a new kind of hell. The Danganronpa Reddit! The idiocy contained in it. The memes! The memes! Alright, so I took the liberty to take screenshots of the polls I made throughout the cities. I took them first on 5th of July, which was 2 days after the last episode of V3 arrived. And I also took another set of screenshots on 20th of July. So let's see the results. So first one is, who is your favorite student / survivor in the final class trial? Now this one I do have to mention that it was the only poll I made in which you can vote how many people you liked. It wasn't just one vote per person. So I do believe that it is because of that the votes are pretty close to one another, with the only difference being that between the 5th and 20th, Tsumugi gained one more vote. Not much to say here now, other than it seems like people do favor the main 3 survivors a bit more with 3 or 4 votes higher than those who died, like Tsumugi or Kibo. Second one, which Danganronpa V3 student do you relate to the most? Well, based on the results, people find Shuichi the most relatable, followed by Himiko, Kokichi, Rantaro, and so on, with the only difference between 5th and 20th being that Kokichi gained 2 more votes since, and still remaining in the same position. I find this to be pretty close to how I thought it would end, that being Shuichi, Himiko, and Kokichi being among the first ones actually. Well, there is one thing that I thought would happen, but apparently not, which I'm gonna talk about that in a couple of minutes. Now, from what I have noticed after you enter the killing game, it does look like you value Shuichi and Himiko a lot more than the others. They are your absolute favorites. Can you tell me if you find both of them relatable in your eyes? Why do you think the fans find them relatable? Well, I do find Shuichi to be relatable to me in the sense of how he sometimes blames himself for his actions. And in a bad way, I mean, not in a good Kaito way. How he's being really hard on himself at times, which is something that I myself have been dealing with more and more as time goes on. I am being more and more harsh on myself for all sorts of stuff, which is one of my faults. From what I have noticed though, one of the common arguments I found of why fans found him relatable was because he lacks self-confidence, which is something that a lot of people can have. But, you know, I feel like that is missing a certain point in my eyes. Lacking self-confidence is something that I'm sure a lot of people see in a lot of protagonists, but for Shuichi, it's less about lacking self-confidence and more about lacking the courage for finding the truth. To me, Shuichi represents the theme of finding the balance and embrace his duty of being a detective. Between believing, like what Kaito taught him, and being logical like how Kokichi was, since it is part of a detective's job to be rational, of course. There is no doubt that Kaede and Kaito influenced him a lot, helped him a lot in order to become the strong man that he was at the end, be a more assertive person. But do you remember this moment?
Because we're all friends, right? Weren't we going to work together to end this killing game?
This is a class trial. Although we were forced into these class trials by the mastermind, that's how we survived. It was the only way. It was the only way we could survive.
This was definitely something he learned from Kokichi. In order to win, not only did he need belief, but also doubt. A balance between 2 extreme forces. That is what Shuichi represents. And that is very relatable to me because I also find this to be the perfect mixture for success. I had been using that mentality since Makoto. And even Hajime and Chiaki knew that. What with the whole belief without doubt is simply a lie thing.
'Cause if there's no room for doubt, then there's no reason to believe, is there? Don't say deep stuff. I don't really get it. If you want to believe in someone, you need to overcome doubt first. Belief without doubt is simply a lie.
Himiko, I do find her to be really relatable, and the thing that makes her so relatable is her coping mechanism. Not only is she dealing with her problems and her insecurities by being lazy and saying, "Oh, what a big pain," for most of the first chapters, but her love for magic also plays a part in her trying to deal with the situation that she is in for the other parts of the story. Escapism. That is why she resorted to Angie's religion, in order for her to feel much safer during the killing game, even if it was another form of escapism. And also, that is why, as you may notice in the later parts of the game after chapter 3, Himiko becomes more and more serious and tries to help without having magic being involved in many cases, while also telling us that she will still remain a dreamer till the very end by loving magic.
Of course. My magic is also an option.
I see what you did there! Trying to throw me for a loop. It's like Gundam trying to say that he will retire from being an overlord. Man, did I take the bait.
A dreamer to the end, huh?
A dreamer to the end. I also do want to ask you what makes Kokichi relatable in some people's eyes. Well, I can see why. Probably the biggest reason being his lack of trust for people in general. Doubt. And not much else I can say about that. Also, while I'm talking about certain aspects of these characters, I am gonna dedicate topics towards characters where I'm gonna talk about them in more detail than what I've been doing now with Shuichi and Himiko, for example. Role in the story, personality, all sorts of stuff. How about Ryoma? You would think that he would be higher on the list too. Yeah, I know what you mean. Ryoma is one person who has suffered from lack of motivation to keep living, and that is something that a lot of people struggle with. So I do find quite a bit of relatability in him, but it seems that he only got 1 vote.